Welcome back to another EDH deck tech. I got a nice one for you today. So I've just finished my Kamigawa Neon Dynasty pre-release. Had a lot of fun. Went 2-1-1. So, you know, okay. Yeah, it was an interesting set. Quite enjoyable. But I do have a deck tech for you today. So this one I had been working on in celebration of Kamigawa coming up. So being released obviously next week. So I did want to kind of go back and have a look at Kamigawa. I wasn't playing back then, so I thought I'd take a bit of a dive back. And of course, you know, I have to bring something mono black. So this one kind of came about. First of all, yeah, Kamigawa, wanted to kind of explore that. But second, I had an interesting experience with Group Hug. That I thought, okay, that was really interesting. It's not really a archetype that I thought I would want to build around. And I wanted to see, okay, what does Group Hug look like in mono black? Just kind of explore that space. Now, it's not, I guess, as Group Hug that you would probably normally expect, but I did try to kind of build around it. So I've got Seizan, Perverter of Truth here. So this one was really interesting. So each player gets an additional 2 cards. So essentially you Night Whisper somebody because they're going to lose 2 life. So when it comes to Group Hug, I guess this is how Mono Black does it. It gives people cards, and in exchange, you know, I love Night's Whisper. I think it's a great card, and essentially I'm giving everyone free Night Whispers. So it was really interesting to build around because you have a plethora of cards in your hand, so you have a lot of options and your opponents have a lot of options. The good thing is that I know that those options are coming, so I can build around it. Often your opponents aren't anticipating having so many resources, so there's a bit of decision paralysis that goes on the table, as well as just you know, they just need to start playing something, need to start get that that ball rolling, and they kind of get stuck with a bunch of cards because they weren't expecting all these cards. So it was really interesting to build around. So it is 5 mana, so it's a bit expensive to kind of get out there, so you need to kind of get that ramp going. It is a 6/5, so it's pretty big beater as well. It just misses out on that kind of 7 to get that 3 attack commander damage. Not that commander damage was too relevant, but I found 6/5 to be a decent body, which was nice. And just having all those cards, which I love drawing. I love Night's Whisper. I love Night Whispering myself. So we'll go through the deck. So first up, Wound Reflection. So the whole reason I wanted to build this deck in particular is I wanted to play in with Wound Reflection. So at the beginning of each player's end step, they're going to lose life, essentially double life. So with Seizan, it's going to at least be 4, but there's a lot of other effects that your opponent's going to lose life from. So yeah, I just really like this card. It's just a fun card. Everyone's kind of just going to be speeding up the game a bit. So I did really want to build this. I've been wanting to build around this card for a while, and I thought Seizan kind of was a great fit. So I just want to kind of highlight that this is probably my favorite card from the set, from the deck. But yeah, and it really speeds up the game when it comes out, and I find that enjoyable. Okay, so we'll go through. So the Group Hug aspect, so you are Night Whispering everyone for a turn for free, so that is nice, but we're going to try and give them more cards. And you'll see why there's synergies around giving my opponents cards, of course. So Howling Mind, essentially when it's untapped, I don't really have anything to tap it, untap it, so essentially it's going to draw everyone an additional card. So that's great. Just 2 mana, just super cheap, starts getting it out there. Keen Duelist was an interesting one. So essentially, it's kind of like a Dark Confidant, but you have one target opponent, and they will reveal, and you will reveal. They'll lose life. I'll lose life based on their mana value. So this was a fun card. Kind of gets a bit of politicalness. You know, hey, I'll give you a card, but you know, you might see you're gonna lose life and all that kind of stuff. So this one was actually quite fun. Horn of Greed, you know, classic. When players play a land, they're going to draw a card. Lots of landfall decks out there, so that's great. You know, try to obviously play this on your turn 4, so that then you can get your land drops, things like that. So keep that in mind. Master of the Feast, so this one you don't really get to benefit from. So at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent's going to draw cards. It is a 5/5 flying beater, that's okay, comes down nice and early. Again, it's giving people cards. It's like, hey, you know, this is how we group hug, we're going to give you cards. Temple Bell, taps, each player draws a card, nice and simple. Font of Mythos, very similar to Seizan. Each player at their draw step is going to draw an additional 2 cards. So essentially they're drawing 3 cards on their draw step. So yeah, that's a lot. And then Teferi's Puzzle Box. So this one, you know, this one can be a bit like, it's not really a group hugs. Normally it's kind of a bit of a combo stuff where you lock people out. I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff. I just want players to draw cards and keep drawing cards. Now you will draw at the beginning of your draw step. So you essentially draw that card, then put all of those cards on the bottom, and then you draw again. Now you'll see why. Lots of draw. I've got lots of synergy around my opponent's drawing, so you'll see why. But this one, you know, your opponents might be a bit hesitant when this one kind of comes out, but I do reassure, hey, there's no locking out or anything like that with this one. And then Peer into the Abyss, not normally described as a group hugs kind of card. You can, so you know, target one of your opponents, they draw half their library and lose half their life. Now this would essentially, you know, kill somebody with Wound Reflection, which is why I really like to have Wound Reflection in this deck, and really why I wanted to kind of help build around it. But you know, you can target somebody, give them heaps of cards, you know, hey, have all the cards you will ever want. You know, you'll see why that might not be a good thing. So yeah. So that's all the draw kind of group hug effects. So now we have all the kind of punishments for my opponent's drawing cards. So, you know, hey, you're drawing cards, you will be punished for it. So it's kind of like a Nekasa, but, you know, you have to put a bit more extra work into it. So yeah, so during each opponent's upkeep, essentially if they have more than 4 cards, they lose 1 damage for each. That's more than 4. So this one's probably one of the worst ones for if you know, an opponent can kind of start going through their hand. This one can be a bit difficult to kind of hit, but it does start dwindling down our opponent, which is nice. Okay, Underworld Dreams, the real hitter. So every time an opponent draws a card, deal 1 damage to that opponent. So with Period of the Abyss, they lose half their life, and then, you know, they draw half their library, and you're going to essentially kill them with this. So, you know, this is where the kind of punishment really starts with Underworld Dreams. A really key card to get out there. Black, so you know, it's quite heavy on those black pips, but this is where the fun begins. Fate Unraveler, so same thing when the opponent draws a card, but this one's a creature, so it's a bit more susceptible to removal, but very similar. So, you know, with Seizan, they lose 2, then they lose another 2, plus their draw step, you know, so they starts dwindling down. Skull Cage, interesting one. So this one is 3 or 4. Anything outside of those, they'll take 2 damage. So, and this again, each opponent's upkeep. Viceling, creature, so it's a bit more susceptible. This one is also another one, so -4. So if they have 7, -4, so they'll take 3, for instance. You know, you have to do a little math with this kind of deck. But this one is a creature, a bit more susceptible. Okay, Kagamaro, First to Suffer. So an interesting one. This one's more kind of there for the board wipe. So I will be drawing lots of cards as well. So my hand is usually pretty stacked. And for just one black, everything gets negative X, which is really nice, kind of board wipe on a creature. Yeah, it's just nice to have. It can be a big beater, but it's more there to be like visible. Hey, I can wipe the board at any time. Just keep drawing cards, opponents. Don't mess with what's going on. Okay, Obnixilis Hate Twisted. So there's another Underworld Dream kind of effect where when your opponents draw cards, deals 1 damage. It can destroy a creature and your opponent's gonna draw a card. I don't want to destroy one of my own creatures. I want to give my opponents cards. That's the point of this group hug deck. So yeah, so this one's in there. But it is Planeswalker. Don't really have a lot of protection, so this one can be a bit susceptible. Psychosis Crawler. So it's when I draw a card. It doesn't really matter about how big it is, but each opponent will lose 1 life. So yeah, again, I'm still drawing cards as well. So it's incrementally hitting my opponents, which is really nice. Curse of Fool's Wisdom. So interesting one. So it's 6 mana value, which is quite high. It does have a madness cost. Now that is relevant. You'll find out why. But whenever an opponent, whenever enchanted player, so it's a single person, so it can be a bit targeted. But if you need to take somebody out, this is really good because they're going to lose 2 life and I'm going to gain 2 life. So some of that life gain is actually quite nice. It's very much needed because I am also taking damage, and some people don't appreciate getting all the cards, which I can't understand why. So having that life gain is quite nice. Now 6 mana value is a lot, but the madness is relevant, and for 4 mana at instant speed, sometimes this can be quite nice. Okay, and then the big daddy, Price of Knowledge, 7 mana, quite a lot. So players have no maximum. Players have no maximum hand size. So go crazy, opponents, so everyone. So the beginning of each upkeep, it's going to do damage equal to their hand size. So really nice. Yeah, like every time it goes around, there's going to be doing so. It is at the beginning of upkeep, so it's obviously when Seizan's trigger is on the stack, as well as this is on the stack. Now, because they're my triggers, I can order them however I want. So obviously, always order Seizan, last, so that it can be resolved first, and then this obviously goes off. So make sure that that's the case. So at least they're getting the 2. As well as any additional upkeep ones. So quite nice, this one. The game really changes, and it goes very quickly when this comes out. Okay, so the reason madness might be interesting. So I'm giving opponents cards. So it means that they have a lot of resources. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. I'm giving you cards, but I'm going to discard those cards. So there is a bit of a discard package in here because you are giving away free resources, but you really want to limit how much that is. So it's kind of give but take. I guess this is the black way of group hug, I guess. So Dark Deal. Everyone's going to discard their hand, and they're going to essentially wheel -1. So again, with Underworld Dreams, discard. They're going to draw their hand again, -1. So you're going to be hitting them for all that damage, which is really nice. And their hand sizes can be quite large. Bottomless Pit. So the beginning of each upkeep. So this one, each player discards at random. This one can sometimes slow the game down a bit as people try to determine how to do randomness. But it is the beginning of each player's upkeep. So again, upkeep triggers. So order them as you will. Oppression. So this one's a strong one. So every time a player plays a spell, essentially card spell, the player discards a card from their hand. So I'm giving lots of resources, so as they're playing spells, they have a hand to discard. So I found this one, like when I play this in Tiny Bones, people will groan, but I'm giving you cards. So this is usually okay. They usually have something to discard, so that's okay with this one. Words of Waste. So next time I would draw a card, each opponent will discard a card instead. So at the beginning of my upkeep, I can draw 2 cards. I can pay 2, obviously to have them discard. So this one's quite nice. So I can keep hitting their hand. Now, obviously at their upkeep, that's gonna trigger and they're gonna draw cards. But like I said, they're gonna have cards. Call to Ambition. I like Monarch. Monarch's a lot of fun. Adds a lot of flavor to the game, a lot of excitement to the game. So this is great. And if they can't discard, then they're gonna lose 3. If I'm on the Monarch, they lose 6. All that kind of stuff. It's just fun. Yeah, I like this one. Ill-gotten gains. So each player discards a card, and then they're going to return 3 cards to the hand from the graveyard. So this can be any 3 cards. So this one could sometimes backfire, as depends on what's out there. But it's more about just getting rid of people's hands, and then they'll just fill them up again. Yeah, it's just to kind of get stuff into the graveyard, get them discarding, because we do have payoffs. So Rankle, Master of Pranks, having a nice creature, something to sacrifice. I can draw, each player can draw a card, and it has the discard effect. So really nice. Has a bit of everything. I love this card. And then Awaken the Worthwhile. So again, just get rid of people's hands, and you can have a bunch of 2/2s. That's okay, because they're just going to get their cards back. So, normally this one's just like, oh, and then nobody has cards to do anything with. But hey, leave Seizan out, and then, you'll get cards. So that's that. Painful Quandary. So whenever opponent cards a card, that player loses 5 life or discards a card. So kind of like Oppression, but it can hit, obviously, people's life, and people like to keep cards in their hands usually, but I'm giving them so many that they'll just usually discard. So it's usually pretty fine. Alright, so discard payoff. So that's a lot of discard. So we do want some payoffs for that discard, because essentially I'm giving them the resources and then I'm making them discard it. So at the beginning of each, so Bloodchief Ascension, beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life, you put a counter on it. So with Seizan, yes, that's going to happen. Essentially, if it survives around the table, it's going to happen. And so whenever something put into the graveyard, they're going to lose 2 life, and I'm going to gain 2 life, which is really nice. Again, this is that kind of help buffering, help slowly ticking my opponents away until I can get that kind of Underworld Dreams, get those Viceling kind of effects, get them into place. So there's a lot of setup involved. Liliana's Caress. Whenever opponent discards, that player loses 2 life. Great. It doesn't hit me, which is really good. And 2 life, hitting them for 2 life is actually quite a lot when there's discard, especially with like Awaken the Erstwhile, Ill-Gotten Gains, all that kind of stuff. That's why those cards, those just get rid of your hands, Dark Deal things, are in there. Waste Not, just goes in any discard style deck. Lots of value there. Zombies, mana, all that kind of stuff. Megrin, another Liliana kind of effect, deals 2 damage to that player, but it's 1 extra mana. And then Raider's Wake, same thing, the player loses 2 life whenever they discard. If I attacked with a creature, I can get target opponent discard. Not usually too relevant, but it can happen. Okay, Sangromancer. So whenever an opponent creature dies, I gain 3 life. Usually doesn't come up too much, but whenever an opponent discards, I'll gain 3 life, and that actually is quite relevant. So again, this is to help buffer that life, because I will be losing life as well. Tergrid, God of Fright, just a great card. So whenever opponent's essentially sacrificing or discarding, again, discarding's usually the relevant thing. Now, this one's a very powerful card. Some groups don't like it, some do. It's okay, So obviously, you can swap this out for any kind of like discard effect, maybe a Siphon Mind or something like that. I don't know. If your play group's not okay with it, I found in the 99, it's usually you know, okay, somewhat acceptable. So yeah, but if you don't want to play with it, I'd put something else, you know, some kind of discard effect, or maybe some other draw effect. Okay, just some other random value cards to go in, just to kind of help buffer life totals, things like that. So, Bloodseeker, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, that player loses life. Well, they may lose life, I guess. So just, you know, pesky token decks, things like that. Just have a few creatures coming in. You can just start hitting their life total, get them down. You want to start, you know, getting them down to 30, 20, start really hitting them for those underworld effects where you know, hit them with a lot of draw. Doughty Voidwalker. I don't think I make mono black without this card anymore. Just great value. It does have a few kind of nombos with some of your die effects, but I do find that I sacrifice this one quite regularly, just to get some of that value from my opponents. So yeah, quite nice. Everybody's got a dead. You know, life gain is something particularly difficult. So because they can kind of outpace that to life, or the incremental life that I'm kind of giving. So Erebos is quite nice, just to stop them from gaining life, as well as it can draw me cards. Not really something too relevant for me, because, you know, I'm drawing a lot of cards. It has devotion, so it can be, you know, that nice blocker, but it's there really to help stop the life total. Polluter Bonds, another one that's just going to kind of hit people incrementally whenever they play a land. They're going to lose 2 life and you're going to gain 2 life. Excuse me. And then Vince's Journal, just to help pad life total, help to give me no maximum hand size, which is really nice. But again, sort your triggers so that your Seizan will go off first, so you draw the maximum amount of cards, and then this will go, obviously, so you'll gain that life. And then Merchant of Asphodel, another one. Life total can be an alternate win condition. When people start getting low, you know, you're hitting people for incremental amounts of damage. You know, this can help end the game very quickly. We got just a little bit of protection. So Seizan can be a bit of a target, even though, you know, you're giving people cards. You know, some people don't appreciate it. So Malakir Rebirth, just to kind of get it back. Sudden Spoiling, sometimes, you know, you're going to get it hit, you're going to get swung at it. It's nice to kind of almost fog that for a turn, which is great. Bit of removal, so Defile, play a lot of swamps. -1 is really great, even for Indestructible. Feed the Swarm, great to get rid of those enchants, things that are giving them life. Smothering Tithe is a particularly difficult one for this deck, obviously, because your opponents are drawing cards, you're drawing cards. You know, this one probably is a take out Smothering Tithe if you can kind of target. Infernal Grasp, just to get rid of a creature, lose 2 life. Just nice and efficient. Baleful Mastery, exile target creature or planeswalker. Again, I'm giving my opponents draw cards. If any deck wants this card, it's this one. I usually play in a lot of my black decks because the draw is usually really negligible. But in this one, it's actually important. I can, you know, give somebody that I want a card, and hopefully they'll take damage from it. A Deadly Rollick, I want to play my commander, so having this on for free is usually really good. So exile target creature. And then Hagra Mauling, it's a land on the other side, so that's really, really great. It's an overcosted, you know, murder, so that's really bad, but it's a land, so that's nice. Toxic Deluge, just to, you know, board wipe, really, really great. Gets around Indestructible. Damnation, just, you know, nicely costed. Gets rid of everything. And Mutilate, play a lot of swamps, so, you know, -6 across the board, gets rid of a lot. Okay, ramp package. So Dark Ritual, try to get out Seizan as early as possible. Soul Ring, of course. Arcane Signet's another nice one. Cabal Ritual. You know, you just want to get Seizan out as early as possible. With some of your discard effects, you can fill up your graveyard quite a lot, so can be quite nice. Felwar Stone, you know, it's either taps for black or colorless. Jet Medallion, lots of black pips, so really good. Mind Stone can draw me a card, but yeah, just 2 mana rock. Thought Vessel, no maximum hand size, which is really, really nice. So, you know, I can deal with the cards in my hand. Oops. Crypt Gas, double my swamps, playing a lot of swamps. Extort's quite nice as well, obviously, but it's more about doubling my swamps because will have a lot of cards, so I need to be able to play them in an efficient way. Solemn Simulacrum, just, you know, this one could be a bit of a sacrifice outlet, sacrifice fodder, sorry. Give me the card, give me the land, you know, just that bit of ramp. Now, Tempting Contract has been an interesting one. I first looked at this card and go, okay, this was bad, but people take the treasure because they have a lot of resources in their hands. They want to use those resources. Normally, I would just be like, no, but I'm giving people cards and they have a hand full of cards that they want to play, and I'm giving them the opportunity to do that. So people take this, which has been very, very surprising because I would be flat out no. But people want to play the cards, and this is the dichotomy that I really enjoyed about this whole mono black group hug thing. This is actually quite fun. And the kind of Revenant, you know, W Swamps, obviously. It's great. Okay, Mana Base, Ancient Tomb, really, really good. Bajuka Bog, for that graveyard hate. Cabal Coffers, I play a lot of swamps, obviously. Have Urborg in this deck, so, you know, I really want to start getting the mana count up. Cabal Stronghold, I play a lot of basics, so really, really nice. Gaia Reach Sanitarium, not something that I usually play, but each player draws a card, then discards a card. So it hits both the kind of angles of this deck that I'm going for. So everyone draws that card, so, you know, they take damage off their Underworld Dreams, and then they discard, so they take damage off the Liliana's Caress kind of thing. So it's really, really hitting that avenue that I'm trying to go for. Mikakoro Center of the Sea, just each player draws a card, you know. I'm a group hug. Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx have a lot of devotion, so great. Reliquary Tower, I really need to work, you know, I really need no maximum hand size, so it's really, really nice. Strip Mind, you know, always play at least one land destruction land in my deck. This could be Strip Mine, Ghost Quarter, Tectonic Edge, you know, whatever, but this one's nice. Urborg, obviously really, really great, turns everything into swamps, that's what I want. And then I have 24 swamps, I can't remember. I have snow-covered swamps, but there's no snow in here. I just like this art. And if someone plays Extra Planar Lens, I'm there. Yeah, that's the deck. So Seizan, Perverter of Truth has been very interesting. It's not your traditional group hug, obviously, that some of you may see out there in the wild. I think a lot of them have, you know, like give people life, give people hippos, whatever. This one still functions as a deck that's trying to really get at your opponents. You know, I'm giving everyone cards. This is the best kind of mono black way that I could work it out. So yeah, this one's been a lot of fun. Very, very interesting, very, very different play style than I'm used to, but really enjoyable. I recommend giving it a go. You know, and advertising it as group hug and having people's kind of perceptions about what group hug could mean has been interesting and challenging, and you know, people like cards but they don't like it when it comes with a caveat, so that's been fun, kind of navigating that. So yeah, so been a great deck. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.